Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto. It is so good to be together this morning. There's a lot of stuff going on today and in the coming weeks, so please do have a look in the order of service. We have a newcomer's tea. If you feel new, like you're still getting to know this place, or you haven't come to a newcomer's tea yet, you're new enough. So come join me in room A at 11:45 if you have that time today. And if you are new, I hope you'll stop by the table, the welcome table. There's one out there. There's a small one right here as well, where you can get lots of information. And there's a helpful person from the Membership and Growth Committee there, Elsa, to answer your questions about the congregation, about Unitarian Universalism, to give you a packet for joining if this is the day you'd like to do that. Online, you as well have a greeter there. Pam can answer all your questions if you're new and getting to know this place. And now, except that we have a justice partner. This is Amy trying to depend on what's in her head. Never do that. Always write it all down. We have a justice partner, a new one today. We asked folks to nominate new justice partners, and Ellen Flamen came through and told us about this one. We were so excited, and the congregation voted to add it. So we have Peninsula Food Runners to tell us about what they do and how we can support them. Yeah, please come on up. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. First, I want to say my gratitude to Amy and Cal. Amy, who received a phone call that I made asking for help with a food run, and shared it with Cal. And Cal, I was giddy when you agreed to help us once a week to deliver food from LinkedIn to Hope's Corner. Since March, Cal, you have delivered over 2,000 meals to the clients at Hope's Corner. My name is Maria Yap, and I'm the founder and executive director of Peninsula Food Runners. I'm elated for this opportunity to share with you what we do at Peninsula Food Runners. Peninsula Food Runners is a local organization whose mission is to reduce hunger and to reduce food waste in our communities in both San Mateo and Santa Clara County. Every day, restaurants, companies, caterers, bakeries throw away good, nutritious food, and we pick up from the companies such as Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Lunardi's, Bianchini's, forth. Instead of tossing untouched surplus food into the landfill, we recover and redistributed over 3 million meals in just 2023. And over the 10 years, it's 18 million meals in total for people who are food insecure in both these counties. And when we talk about food insecurity, we're talking about individuals who do not know where their next meal is coming from. I'll give you an example. One morning, I received a phone call from a woman named Dorothy. She lived in one of the affordable development. She had gotten my number from the property manager, and she had received a bag of food for a family of 4 the previous day. Her voice quivered as she started to say, "Maria, I am 77 years old grandmother. I'm calling to thank you for bringing those meals. And she paused and she started crying. I was just sitting in my living room thinking, how am I gonna feed my grandbabies? My daughter lost her job, and these 2 little ones kept asking me for food. Then you knocked. I just couldn't believe it, that you said you had meal for 4 people. I couldn't believe somebody was thinking about me and about our family and cared enough about us. So thank you. You gave me hope." This is an example about how our service impacts, this one particular family during the pandemic. In 2022, California implemented first ever climate bill requiring donors to donate their surplus food. In turn, it required required us to pick up more food. Peninsula Food Runners is a lean nonprofit, only 2 full-time employees with 485 active volunteers, 65 food runs a day, delivering to 55,000 meals each week to 224 partner agencies that feed their clients who are homeless, single, seniors, struggling families, and many others. We have a waiting list of recipients who want food, and we have an increasing number of donors who want to donate, but we need additional volunteers to meet this increased demand for our service, and we need a dedicated full-time employee per county. Your partnership, whether it be financially or partnering in volunteering, will not just impact one nonprofit, but many nonprofits to feed their clientele. Your partnership will help us reach out to more families who are struggling with high costs of food and feed their children. Your partnership will allow seniors to have a choice between food and medicine. Just like that grandmother during the pandemic, your partnership will give people hope that we service. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maria, you'll be around after the service so people can ask about volunteering. Wonderful. Great. So do go join Maria and ask her more about how you can get involved. And of course, at our offering, we'll have a chance to support them financially. And now, let us begin our service.
Away to the westward I'm longing to be, where the beauties of heaven unfold by the sea, where the sweet purple heather blooms fragrant and free, on a hilltop high above my dark island. Oh, isle of my childhood I'm longing to see, as a packet leaves Oban and passes Tyree, soon I'll capture the magic that lingers for me, when I'm home once more upon my dark island. So gentle the sea breeze that ripples the bay, as the stream meets the ocean and young children play on a strand of pure silver, I'll welcome each day, and I'll roam forevermore my dark island. Oh, isle of my childhood I'm longing to see, as the packet leaves Oban and passes Tyree, soon I'll capture the magic that lingers for me, when I'm home once more upon my dark island. True gem of the Hebrides, bathed in the light of the midsummer dawning that follows each night, how I long for the cry of the seagulls in flight, as they circle high above my dark island. Oh, isle of my childhood, I'm longing to see, as the packet leaves Oban and passes Tyree. Soon I'll capture the magic that lingers for me, when I'm home once more upon my dark island. And I'll roam forevermore, my dark island.
If you have a chalice there at home, please light it along with the one here in the main hall. The poet Andrea Gibson speaks of the batteries I found when the lights went out, and the prayers I found when the brakes did too. May this be a light for us. Another light when the lights go out. May this chalice be your light. When the lights go out and you don't know where you put the batteries, when you can't find the words or don't know what prayer might mean, this chalice burns. Gibson goes on, I've got this moment and no idea when it will end, but every second of this life is Scripture. And to know that, trust me, we don't need to be born again. Our centering words come from Ana Castillo. If you wish to heal your sadness or anger, seek to heal the sadness or anger of others. They are looking to you for guidance, help, courage, strength, understanding, and for assurance. Most of all, they are looking to you for love. As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, let us feel ourselves arrive here fully in this place where we give to each other and receive from each other. Morning.
I'd like to invite all those who are young or young in heart to join me up here on our colorful quilt. While our friends are coming up, I want to tell you a quick story. When Amy told me the topic of her sermon this Sunday was lichen, I wasn't sure what story to pick. Not a lot of storybooks written about lichen, but thanks to Drew Oman, he has given us this book. It's called Can You Hear the Plants Speak? And it's by an indigenous author. And this happens to be the perfect story for a lichen service. So, let's listen.
I'm so intrigued.
All right. Our people believe spirit lives in everything. Mountain, wind, river. Come, take a walk with me. We listened as our plant relatives spoke. Wild strawberries will quench your thirst when the streams run dry. Buckwheat. Birds eat my seeds, and so can you. White sage. My smoke will lift your prayers to the heavens. Oh, who's that under the tree? Looks like it might be Grandma and Grandpa. Let's listen. We rested in Grandpa's oak shade. These trees are our ancestors. They give us our food and our medicine, our connection to spirit, my great-grandparents explained. And we thank them with a song, a blessing, a few drops of water. I sprinkle the cool water as my great-grandparents quietly hummed the ancient song. I felt their song inside of me. Wow. But now, but not everyone could hear the plants speak. Some people thought our land would be more useful flattened into concrete. What is that? There's a bulldozer. Uh-oh. The land was silenced. I grew up and the city grew too. When my great-grandparents passed, I lost their voices. And with that, I was lost too. Oh. But wait, what is this? What do you see on the bottom? What is that? Yeah, it's a tiny plant. Good job. Monarch at rest on the milkweed, emerging through a crack. Milkweed scent whispered, "Don't give up." You see the monarch butterfly? Yeah. I remembered my great-grandparents' voices singing in the great shade of the grandfather oak. "Thank you, brother," I whispered. A drop of rain splashed in the dry dust where thirsty seeds seeded. Then one mighty drop might germinate one seed. One drop, and then many, many, many more. The sharp scent of crescent rose. I felt the seeds drink. I knew what to do. "Thank you," I whispered to the sky and to the plants. From one, I would grow so many. I had so much to learn. Oh, you look at all those plants, huh? Wow. Plants became my best teachers. Black walnut, gather our hard brown shells and chill them for the winter. Poppy, shake our seeds into baskets as wind scatters them. Judas, divide our stems after fledgling leaves their nest. Palo Verde, my seeds pass through raven's stomach. Soften me with acid. Manzanita, Nanita, we bloom after every wildflower. Hold our seeds and widen the circle. Almost done, last page. You see the baby? Yeah. Yeah, it's a giant baby. And then after my son was born, I named him Tuhi, our word for the drop of rain that starts the seed. Say goodbye to the giant baby.
Bye, giant baby.
We drew strength from the wind and the mountain, bobcat and hummingbird, bringing life to our home in the city. We grew plants from all our relatives. Each new seedling is healing. Tiny neighbors rise up in the dirt. Yeah. We plant empty places. So they plant a sidewalk. This is a place how we give back. These oaks will shade your great-grandchildren, I explained, just as my great-grandparents told me. Can you hear the plants speak? Yes. What do they tell you? What What do you think they tell us? We'll find out. They say, "Thank you." And the song grows in him, in me, and maybe in you. Listen, can you hear it? And that's the end of our story. Thank you for listening. So please rise now in body or spirit and join us in singing Spirit of Life. The words will be on your screen. And then after that song, we will have Summer Sunday School for preschool and up.
Let us prepare our hearts, open our ears, and all the windows of compassion in our soul to hear others' joys and sorrows, to share our own. If you missed a chance, blessed be. Let us sing together again. We Are Not Our Own, which is number 317 in the gray hymnal, if you care to look at the music there, and the words are in your order of service and on the screens. Please rise in body or spirit.
We have a reading from a 2023 op-ed in the Washington Post by Rebecca Solnit. What if climate change meant not doom, but abundance? What if we imagined wealth consisting not of the money we stuff into banks or the fossil fuel-derived goods we pile up, but of joy, beauty, friendship, community, closeness to flourishing nature, to good food produced without abuse of labor? What if we were to think of wealth as security in our environments and societies, and as confidence in a viable future? For so many of us, being busy with work has leached away our capacity to pursue true riches. What if we were to prioritize reclaiming our time, to fret less about getting and spending, and instead spend this precious resource on creative pursuits, on adventure and learning, on building stronger societies and being better citizens, on caring for the people and other species and places we love, on taking care of ourselves? To respond to the climate crisis, a disaster on a more immense scale than anything our species has faced, we can and must summon what people facing disasters have: a sense of meaning, of deep connection and generosity, of being truly alive in the face of uncertainty, of joy. This is the kind of abundance we need to meet the climate crisis, to make many or even most lives better. It is the opposite of moral injury. It is moral beauty, a thing we needn't acquire because we already have it in us.
The lichens weren't actually my idea to begin with. Some months ago, my friend Claire, now the Reverend Claire Eustace, asked if I would preach in her ordination service, which was last month. And I asked her if there were any themes other than ministry, and she said lichens. She meant it. I'm not sure she knew what a biology nerd I am, but she found out, and so will you. But first, I have some other things to talk about before we get around to the lichens. And yes, the story that Kat chose was very appropriate. She really has a knack for that. Now, what I want to talk about is Unitarian Universalism. This particular faith ordinations, since Claire got my brain running along those lines, they remind me of that particular fact. Because two of the most visible moments of that forging were ordination sermons. One delivered in 1819 by William Ellery Channing, and the other by Theodore Parker in 1841. They were in the midst of numerous crises, which I'll come back to in a bit, and they responded with two sermons that, well, together they added up to about 3 hours long, but don't worry. I won't go nearly half that long. And they laid out a picture of how we could respond in a time that they were being told, you know, your faith response is no religion at all, really. Channing responded to a wave of evangelical Christianity that was happening in the country. The Second Great Awakening with its emotional excesses, and Parker was responding to biblical literalism. And Channing was pointing us to our God-given faculties for moral reasoning. He said we have a moral grounding as well as an emotional one. And Parker was pointing us to our ability to discern what in religion was transient and what was permanent, that we had more to guide us than a human written work that could not be true for all things and always. Channing and Parker really believed that the world needed this faith. And so they explained how, each in about 90 minutes. You are comfortable, right? You're good where you are? Okay. So we also live in a time of crisis. Crises, I mean, right? Don't you wish it were just one? So I'm wondering, do we believe that our faith was made for such a time as this? Do we really believe it? Many voices will say that it isn't. That a religion that values reason isn't a real religion. Just a list of namby-pamby values or principles that without a unifying doctrine or scripture were just religion light at best. You will hear this from people in other faiths. You'll hear it sometimes from people in our congregations, and maybe now and then, like me, you'll hear it in your own heart. Friends, it is not true. We are exactly what this world needs, and this world needs a lot. We are not a pale imitation of real red-blooded religion, but as real and gritty and as vital as it gets. And there are a lot of pieces of our life-giving message that I could pull out, but I want to sum up just one today, in one word, and that is interdependence. or to get concrete lichens. This is where the lichens come in. Got them for me there, Tim? They're also gorgeous, so, okay? So lichens, you probably know, from the way they appear on trees and rocks like this. They're flat. You may not know that they take many, 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 many shapes. So you've got the kind of flat, and then you've got the curly. These all have technical names, of course. They come in many colors. Let's see the next ones. So here's shades of green, but they also come in black. And they also come in, next slide, red. I know, aren't those amazing? These, by the way, do not hurt the trees. If you see lichen all over a tree, it is not a sign of ill health in the tree. Do not worry. They just use the tree as a substrate, and it's fine for the tree. They come in lots of different forms, as I said. If you see the next page, you're very familiar, probably, the next slide, I'm sorry. These are not as familiar, this cup-shaped ones maybe, although once you know to look out for them, these are a form of lichen, and you'll see them. And the next slide, oh wow, there are more forms than I remembered, so lots of little flowers. Fructose or something is called that shape, the fruiting shape of it. Now the next slide. Yeah, that's the one I was waiting for, because the ones on the left you probably know really well. They get called Spanish moss sometimes, but that's a different plant. We see these often in mere woods and so on, any of our forests around here, draping down these ones on the left that look like hair. They're not moss, and they're a kind of lichen. And then the ones in the middle, you get, don't switch away from it yet. Oh, just somebody popped up. Will you make that big for me again, Tim? The one in the middle, you get a closer up look on it on the right. We have a California state lichen, and that's it. Isn't that gorgeous? Talk about the interdependent web. That's called a lace lichen. And from a distance, as you can see, it looks kind of like that hair because it all clumps together, but it's this really gorgeous, you stretch it out, and it's gorgeous sort of lace shape. Lichen grow on all sorts of surfaces, trees and rocks and gravestones. Of course, we know them from that. But also, next slide, they grow. Not about the surfaces, I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted you to know they grow on every continent. And here is proof. They grow even in Antarctica. You may already know that they grow on the other end of the planet because reindeer live almost entirely on lichen in the winter. Can we get the next slide on that? So these are lichen at the Arctic end of the planet, and they thrive under the snow all winter in Arctic conditions, and so the caribou nuzzle under the snow there to eat them when everything else is dead. Now the next picture will show us some of the amazing places they grow. Stone in many, many patterns and many different types of stone. I love these sort of circular ones. And then on the next slide, they'll grow on the shells of a Galapagos tortoise. Again, tortoise doesn't mind. I don't know whether they talk to each other like in Cat's story, but there they are, doing their thing. And on the next slide, they'll grow even on glass and on plastic. They're so amazing. There seems to be nowhere that they can't survive. Incredible ranges of climate, hot to cold. The next slide shows they can even grow on sand. On sand. And so they grow in very hot dunes on Earth too. I think that's our last slide, Tim, is that right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how, but just to see what an amazing example they are of adaptation to the many, many circumstances and habitats that are available here on Earth, including ones that we've only come up with well into their existence, like glass and plastic. They also can be lived to be incredibly old. The oldest known specimen is believed to be over 9,000 years old. So, you know, our oldest redwoods here, when they were just little sprouts, that guy was already 7,000 years old. Whole different sense of scale and ability to to thrive. Now, scientists find them fascinating because they are a living example of something that first happened about 3 billion years ago, and that has happened numerous times, but we don't know exactly how. I should say it didn't happen first with lichen. They're quite a recent development. But studying them can tell us something about maybe how it happened to begin with. And that is the movement from unicellular to multicellular beings. For a long time, of course, there was no life on Earth at all. And then for a very long time, there were only unicellular beings. Already that incredible leap to living things that could split and divide, eat and excrete, and continue life. They carried on like that for about 1 billion years, and then along came multicellular beings. That would be the trees of green and the red roses too, and the friends shaking hands saying, "How do you do?" You and me and everything. These multicellular, amazingly complex creations. Why do lichens provide a key for how that might have happened? Because they are symbiotic. They are actually a composition, a colony of bacteria, and they each help the other. The fungus can't create food by itself. Fungi don't have any chlorophyll and can't photosynthesize. So being a host to the alga, I'm just going to say alga from now on, or algae because cyanobacteria is long, sorry. And being a host to them lets them partake of the food that the algae can make. And the algae get out of it a structure that might make them able to live in conditions such as these incredible cold and heat. And how they do that is a whole other story. But here's what's incredible. It's not just that they live side by side. You know, it's not like a crocodile. There's lots of symbiotic relationships in nature, of course. Probably more symbiosis than things living individually. Again, interdependence. But it's not like, you know, little bird, one organism riding on back of little crocodile and, you know, eating the bugs off it and so on, right? There's lots of symbiotic relationships like that. The fungus actually takes the algae into its body. The algae cells become part of the new organism, and thus you have this lichen, which is a new organism, formerly two, and now one. Formerly simpler, and now more complex. Are they two species or one lichens? Yes. So interdependence is a fact. This is not this exact case, but something like this that we can watch in real time if we watch fungi and algae becoming lichen today and see how they work. Something like that is how we got from a planet of amoebas to this. Not to disamoebas, they're cool, okay? But I'm glad that we have the roses and each other. It started with interdependence. It started with two single-celled critters finding a way to so intertwine their lives that they became a new thing and could live in conditions and grow in complexity in ways that they could never have done alone. A lichen is actually an ecosystem. And as you probably know, so is a human being. Each of us, an entire ecosystem. Some of our cells were once other creatures, and we can't live without the colonies of bacteria and other things that live in our gut, in our eyes, and also. In what way are we therefore just one thing? With lichen, it's part of the secret of their success. They thrive because they are interdependent, because their I is really a we. and their we is an I. And so do we. Ana Castillo spoke of that in our centering words. To help heal your sadness and anger, heal the sadness and anger of others. That's how we work. When we embrace our interdependence, when we reach out beyond ourselves and take into ourselves some concern of someone else's, and when they do that for us, we thrive. I'm reminded as well of that beautiful poem that Lynn Unger wrote called Pandemic, early in the pandemic, when we first all went inside. She wrote about this as a kind of Sabbath, and in the course of that poem, she said, "Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has come clear." We get those wake-ups once in a while, and that was one of them. And then we forget. But here are the lichens to remind us. We need reminding. The lie that this is not so, that interdependence is dispensable or worse, an evil, is everywhere. It's everywhere. In politics and economics, we've gone in recent decades from having a kind of mixed economy where people generally understand whatever party they are, that we are a mix of capitalism, people owning things on their own, and socialism, people sharing resources in order to better thrive. Some people have decided that the more individualistic, the more capitalistic we get, the better. It's not true. It's a lie of hyper-individualism. We have it in religion, where there's an American obsession with individual salvation, as if that is the purpose for which Jesus came, is so that each individual spirit can have a relationship with him and be saved, and devil take the rest. And of course, this lie that we can do without interdependence is rife in our attitude toward the environment. One species is highest, and we should just worry about that species, and what happens to the rest is really not our concern. We know that's not true. But people will tell it to us all the time. All of these forms of this lie deal death. And we have the life-giving theology to counter them all. Politically, economically, spiritually, environmentally, we have ways of showing we are all one. We are not our own. Perhaps it took a tradition so steeped in the Enlightenment and individual rights and the understanding of the dignity of each person to be able to assert, and we're not our own. Each sacred individual. We are interdependent. We cannot live without one another. So lichens are a metaphor, but also an example, a demonstration of this rule of life. It's not an exception, symbiosis. It's more common than the alternative. Biologically, we are not our own, we are each other's, and the crises of our time arise over and over again from this lie. So we can help to respond to them with our truth. Now, Channing and Parker, as I said, they were in all sorts of crises of the time, some of which they might not have known are crises. But it's interesting to look back at the things that were happening in their time, first half of the 19th century. white and male supremacy declared at the time that one fraction of humanity is the best and should make decisions for everyone else. It was the law of the land that black lives were dispensable, that they should be ruled over. War of their time, the colonial wars of their times, that great failure to acknowledge interdependence. Wars of resources, of the growth of empire. It's only gotten worse in our time with our weapons. While we continue to wonder whether people who are not male and not white should have control over their own bodies and their own decisions. And then, of course, the environmental crisis. Well, that's one that Channing and Parker probably could not have even imagined. They couldn't have imagined our weapons, and they could not have imagined that simply by living, an unimaginable almost 8 billion of us, we could threaten other species of life on Earth to the point that we threatened ourselves. And yet there they were, responding to racism, to biblical literalism, to a disdain for reason and a love of war. This religion was forged in crisis. And we were made to respond to the crises of our time. It saves lives, it saves souls, it can save the world. And the good news is, it's good news. Sister Rebecca Solnit has taught us so. Imagine if we lived interdependently, if we said, oh, we are actually happier and better off. What matters to us most is not burning as many fossil fuels as possible, buying as much stuff as possible, living as heedlessly as possible, but living interdependently in connection and community. That is where our joy is. Imagine if we lived that way. Well, it wouldn't feel, as she says, like austerity. What feels like austerity is living as if we're all separate and isolated, like we have to do it alone. Like our grief is something we must face all by ourselves. Like our troubles are something that no one else can help us with. It has never been so. It's a lie. And if we live as if we are alone in a harsh world, it's not only not true, that is austerity to beat all austerity. So Solnit asks us to imagine that our true wealth is in connection, in community, in the ways we depend on each other and care for each other. She asks us to imagine that that is so because it is. And that's why there is nothing watered down about Unitarian Universalism. We have this message that the world needs. We're not the only religion that has it, luckily. But preaching and living interdependence. You know, if we will claim that, if we will love it and preach it and teach it and live it, we will be transformed. And by we, I mean the whole, interwoven, interconnected, interdependent, aching, beautiful world. So let's do it. Friends, of course, we practice interdependence every week when we gather, when we share our stories, when we raise our voices in song, when we listen to one another, and when we give to organizations in the community that do something that, well, it's just such a great idea, but we couldn't do it alone. So we have another one of those great ideas, Peninsula Food Runners. And our opportunity this week is to make that symbiosis richer by supporting the Peninsula Food Runners, by connecting those who are hungry and those who have food to spare, connecting ourselves to all of those folks, connecting these marvelous organizations and people to each other. So please give as generously as you can as we collect our offering for Peninsula Food Runners. Thank you all. Let's join in singing Wake Now My Senses, which is number 298 in the Gray Hymnal. I think we'll just sing verses 1, 3, and 5. Will you move along through the slides that way for us, please, Tim? And yeah, the words are up there and in your order of service. First, third, and fifth verse. Wake now my senses and hear the earth fall. Feel the deep power of breathing all. Be with the well of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, compassion, give me to the heart. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take us your leader, stranger and friend. Praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance dear. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work towards a planet transformed by our soft upon your feet, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of their hand. Everyone, Caroline and David invite us to sing along with their postlude, and so the words will be up on the screen. I invite you to stay seated and enjoy their beautiful music and join your voices to Caroline's.
Morning has woken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the bud.
Thank you, thank you. Everyone, let us stay for a greeting time, conversation after the service. And first we say our benediction together. So if you are online, please unmute and share your video if you're comfortable with that. Touch hands here and there, symbolically or directly, however you are comfortable, and we will speak our words of blessing together.